Oh man, so my wife says I should stop being so angry with social media, and it's not a unjustified anger. I think my confusion is I don't understand. I don't understand the intrinsic value of why people are why they gravitate to social media and everything they do right now. Does that make sense?
I mean, yeah, we literally had the story we talked about earlier in Quick Hits, which if you haven't checked out Quick Hits, go click the video and watch Quick Hits this week, where we cover the week's top news stories from our perspective. Where the Tesla driver, guy rents a Tesla, drives it over a giant hill in Echo Park and crashes it into two cars. That's not enough. Dude then decides to post it on social media. Like, okay.
I don't get it. So one thing I've been kind of like, my former life, I was a quote unquote business person. Like that was my thing. I ate and breathed P&Ls. So I could tell you
ate and breathed what?
P&Ls, profit and loss.
Okay, statements. That's not what it sounded like you said the first time.
Make sure I enunciate profit or just like say it out. Profit and loss. I did not eat pee. I ate and breathed profit and loss statements to a point where I can kind of eyeball numbers, and I'm pretty accurate with eyeballing numbers, and I'm pretty spot on. So it's just a matter of like I understand. So I'm social media to business. Then it comes into the fact of like there's a lot of things that social media is kind of amplifying, like hustle culture, toxic positivity, addiction, and other stuff.
Do you want to hear a funny, like,
sure
thing that ties into this? So ever since you sent this video and I watched like the first 10-15 minutes of it, I didn't get a chance to go all the way through. I felt like that was enough. It was kind of like hurting me on the inside to watch more of it. I keep getting ads on social media for like the 6 side hustles you need to be doing right now to make extra cash. It's the same ad on multiple social media platforms, and I'm just like, you guys are really missing the mark here. Like, I'm not going to click on that. Like, we have our side hustle, and this isn't even like a side hustle. This is our passion project. Like,
right.
I'm with you in that there is an element of addiction or. Maybe it's not addiction, but I feel like it is. Like I feel like people are literally addicted to what they get from social media. It's like we've talked about it in the past. So like the dopamine factory that we've basically created with this, where it's like, oh, did I get likes? Oh, I got more likes. Oh, yay! Like to the point where I went in and turned off all the notifications from social media things when it comes to likes and those shares, anything like along those lines. I will just remember like, oh, hey, it's been a while since I've been on Facebook, and I'll go on Facebook and I'll be like, oh, right. Okay, I got a couple notifications, cool, whatever. Like there used to be a point where every single time I'd get a, hey, so-and-so liked your post, I was like, oh, I gotta click it. Why? I already know that they liked my post. Which post did they like? It doesn't matter. Like, now I use, if anything, the notifications I get are because Panacea is posting new photos or is added to their story, and I want to know what they're making this week so I can decide which day to go get the specials. Like, that's pretty much it.
And that's fair, right?
Yeah. I feel like that's the valid, kind of use case for social media in that regard.
So to go further on, I shared a video, and we're going to link to it in the description or something somewhere down there. The Toxic World of Self-Help, and it's on YouTube, and the channel is, gosh, whose channel is it? I'm getting so bad with this. I don't want to play it. It's playing.
I don't want to play it. It's playing. James Janney. So I just kind of bumped into this guy, and it was pretty interesting. So let me kind of back up. Before social media, there was the self-help movement of the late 80s into around the mid to late 90s. And 7 Habits of Highly Effectual People or whatever, right?
Effective people, yeah. That's
effectual,
probably
that's my new word that I made up.
Yeah, that's not. I was trying to. I was low key, that's not a word, dude. But if you're gonna go on a limb and do that, so I grew up in business in that era, right? And everybody's like, read this book, read this book, read this book. And I'm like, how many books can I read? And one of my biggest criticisms was, as a company, you would read these books, but you wouldn't practice any of it. Well, social media has amplified that same toxicity of self-help. And well, let me back up. The loop is this.
How far back can you go, Andre?
I don't know. Probably the dinosaur days today. You read a book, and you read another book, and you read another book, and you read another book, and unless you're really paying attention, you'll never notice that all the principles are the same. They're literally all the same. You just have to execute on some of them. Well, social media has amplified that whole thing, but they've branched out into, 6 ways to do this, 5 ways to do this, 7 ways to do this. And it goes back to the dopamine thing. Like, when I would teach people how to do time management, I would literally tell them, hey, we're going to take a legal planner. We're going to separate it into 2 halves. You're going to write down what you want to do and what you have to do. Well, I've got these things. I'm like, no, you don't. We're going to look at your calendar later, but we're only going to go off the top of your head what you want to do and what you have to do. And people would write those things down, and I said, let's look at your calendar. What appointments do you have? Oh, I just have like 3. Okay. All the other stuff in your calendar, like, delete it. You know what, people, they would feel like, oh my God, my life is so much easier. I'm like, yeah, it's super simple, right?
Barely an inconvenience.
Yeah, but every time you do that same exercise, you feel a little bit of stress is removed from your life. It's the same thing with self-help. Like, they remove a layer of stress because you maybe identify the problem that you're having or struggling with, and you address it a little bit. Then you go to the next book or the next fad, and you do the same thing. But you haven't maintained the other thing that you were doing, and then it's like those things start to pile up. And I think that the two things are feeding off each other, where people, they do feel a sense of dismay, or they're disjointed, or they're stressed out. And really most people aren't stressed out. And this is another Andreism. You have stress and pressure. Stress is what you can't manage. It's like, it's coming at you, and you can't manage it. And pressure is the extra work or things that you have to do that is manageable. And I say it in a pressure-filled world. I don't say in a stress-filled world. Things that I'm just like, yeah, that sucks. I'm like, yeah, that sucks, and I don't mess with it anymore. But pressure, I can deal with that. I can deal with short-term pressure. Does that mean I work an extra 4 hours, or does it mean this or that? And tying it all back to this, how social media is amplifying these bad, negative habits for people, I think it's crazy. Everybody wants a side hustle. Example, Uber. Go drive Uber, or go do DoorDash. And then you boomerang around in like 45 days, you're pissed. Why? I'm working 7 days a week. I work 12 hours or 8 hours at my job, then I'm working, 9 hours at my side hustle. Yeah. That's a job, fool. Yeah. It's not a side hustle.
You're not making enough driving an Uber or a Lyft or whatever to really make it worth the time that you're putting into it. Like,
right.
If you want that to be your full-time job, make that your full-time job. That's fine. Like, I'm not saying that driving Uber and Lyft is bad inherently.
Nope.
But I'm just like, yeah, that's not a side hustle. Like, I don't know. I still think, like, if yeah, we all have our jobs, our day-to-day jobs, right, that we have to work. And then you have the stuff that you want to do, right? Your passions, your hobbies, the time you want to spend with your family. You want to take your dog for a walk. You want to go to the beach. Like, yeah, those are things I want to do because I'm down at the beach.
Yeah, Chris gave his whole list. Yeah. He's like, I want to take my dog for a walk. I want to go to the beach.
I did.
Dude, you're like
one
7
of those
minutes away
two
from the
things
beach.
Today. And it's just, I guess, one of the things that I've realized after, and I'm going to say this, and you're going to be like, oh, but part of it was like meeting you and spending more time with you and kind of like seeing how you organize yourself, right? Like, that was something where I looked at that and I was like, all right, this dude has his to-do list and he focuses on that and he says, these are the things I got to get done. And then, like, He figures out how to manage his time so that he can get these other things in that he wants to do. And I think that's kind of what you were alluding to with like the legal pad, where it's like you got the things you want to do and you got the things you have to do. And if you get the things done that you have to do, then you have time to do the things you want to do. So it's really not that complicated. Like having a routine is a fairly basic step. And I put this article in here. Well, it is and it isn't. Right? Like, it's basic in that it doesn't take much for you to actually develop a routine. Like, you just have to stick to it. I have never been good at exercising. Exercising is one of those things that I have struggled with throughout my life. I've had spurts and fits where I'm like, I'm going to run this week or this month. And then eventually something happens and I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. I fall down some stairs, right? That happened to me last year and a half ago. This time, one of the things that I found is I've worked it into my actual routine, like every day. I've got it figured out where it works so that I can drop my kid off at school, I can drive to the Y, I do my exercise. Yes, it's water aerobics. Yes, Andre's going to laugh at me for that. But I love it.
I'm not laughing.
I know you're not. I know. And yes, like everybody else that's in there is over 60, and... But I'm going with
like
one of the things.
You're head of the class.
Yeah, one of the things that I love about it is that it's something that my wife and I do together, right? And she's pregnant right now, and so it's helpful for her to be in the water because it relieves a lot of the stress from her body. And so it's been really great bonding opportunity for us to spend some time together. We've made some friends with some of the people that are in the class, which is really cool.
Like 60.
Yeah, I know, but they all think it's adorable that we show up and work out together in their class with them. Like it's like a big family.
Okay, so all right, I'll take that back because I'll tell you one thing I used to do. I used to purposely like sit down with older people, like at a coffee shop or whatever, and like, hey, so how long have you been married? And they like tell me, like, so what's the secret? A lot of the jokes that people say of like, just say yes to what she says or learn how to say I'm sorry. I'm like, that's true.
Yeah.
Real talk, my wife and I, we celebrated on last Friday, 16 years of marriage, and we've been together for 21 years.
Sorry. I know that's not what you were going for, but you had to know that there was a good opportunity that Chris was going to do that.
Well played. But the trick to that is some of the wisdom I stole from people that have done something I wanted to accomplish has played a part in that, right? So it's cool that you can get admiration from people that are probably older than you and say, hey, that's cool that you guys are doing this because it's probably very encouraging. So I do want to laugh about the water exercise, but I do, but I also want to like give some value to the fact that that's pretty cool, right? Because I'm not 60. I try to impart whatever things I've learned in life to my kids and my friends and family because I want to see them have a better life. So it's cool when people that have been where you are can recognize that you're doing something healthy for you. So that's dope.
Yeah.
But you're right. Routines aren't complicated. You just have to really sit down and commit to what you don't have to do, like big things, right?
Nope.
Me, on the other hand, I don't like to exercise with my wife because it's distracting. Like I'm like, no, I just seem to be in my zone. Like you're messing me up. So I don't want to work at your pace. I mean, that's just like a thing that we work through. So it's cool that you can do that. I have friends that their wives don't work, and I'm like not envious, but I'm like, yeah, that'd be great if we didn't have to have both people work. Hell, you're like that. So it's like I'm always on the sideline going, man, I must be doing something wrong. So,
no, you just have more money than the rest of us.
You can get advice and you can get all this wisdom, but is it the right wisdom that we're getting? And like self-help, it was a problem in the mid 90s when I was coming up in business because it's just like it is an addiction. Like you go to the next book because you feel like you're not addressing something, and or people recommend you or your company recommends you, oh, you should read this book. It's just not healthy.
That was the thing that I was going to bring up is that during my time at E-Area, and I think you probably remember this vividly too because we were working very closely together at this time. Like when I got promoted to management, we had a relatively new team of managers, people that hadn't really managed other people before.
Inexperience is the better
Yeah,
word.
all right. Thank you. We had a relatively inexperienced team of managers that were leading different departments in the company, and so one of the things that they thought would be helpful was to start like a book club sort of deal where they, and then we had like the EOS, entrepreneurial operating system, and every quarter there was a different book that we had to read, and it was one time, and then there was Who Moved My Cheese, right? When the company got the VC investment, it was like, Who Moved My Cheese, because everything's gonna change. And I'm like, yeah, this is stupid. Like, this is basic.
It's not helpful.
No, it's not helpful. And every single time that we would read a book, all that it ultimately did was convince the CEO that there was some new magic formula to make us successful. And so now we had to incorporate whatever it was that he liked from the new book into what we already were doing that he still liked, and then he would just throw out the things that he didn't like anymore. And so at the end of it, we had this horrible hodgepodge of self-help business tactics that we were trying to use to manage all of these different departments and to lead teams, and it was just like, I just remember I literally took a picture at one point because I found all of them, like this massive stack, and I'm like, I read every single one of these, and I literally learned nothing from them that I didn't learn by working my day job, like just doing the day-to-day work, and also getting advice from people who'd been there before. Some of that was you. I mean, a lot of it was you, but there were other people in the company that gave good advice too at times, and we're like, hey, I see you're having this problem. I've been there. My recommendation, or what worked for me, was XYZ. All right, cool. Let me see if that works. Oh, wow, that actually makes my job a hell of a lot easier. Like, I think you were the person who told me, instead of waiting until Thursday to write down the list of everything you've done for the week, like, just keep a running tab of, like, you accomplished this task, you accomplished this task, you accomplished this task. Like, your team achieved this goal. That way, at the end of the week, you're just like, boom. Weekly email, done. Made my life so much easier.
There's I do credit Stephen Covey. I would say that as far as the management stuff, he would be like one of the pioneers. And the principles that he used in like his courses and stuff like that were probably they were copycatted by a lot of people. And even in some of the stuff I see like today, it's like it's copied from the same principles that I saw back in the 90s. And it's like, it's just repackaging, right? I don't want to like discredit. Well, actually, I do, because I think they're, when people start to look for the same book just by a different author, like time after time again, you're never going to do anything. That in the video that we're going to share from YouTube, it brings a good point. Like, you get addicted to it, and you're waiting for the next book. You're waiting for the next, like you said, the magic secret to fix it.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
Well, and I think it also removes the idea that you can solve your own problems. Like, to some degree, it's like, I'm incapable of solving this on my own. Whatever it is that I feel like I'm come up against, I need somebody else to tell me how to fix this. Somebody else has already done the work, and it'll be easier if I just do what they did. And I think, like, again, it's fine to get advice from people and to follow that to some degree, but I think there's also, like, the individual experience that you have of solving that problem, of learning from the mistakes that you make along the way, that gives you a greater insight than you're ever going to get from just reading a book. I mean, like, you can read a book about walking through the woods, or you could just take a walk through the woods, and I think ultimately you're going to get a lot more out of the actual walk than you did reading the book that somebody else describes. Well, there were a lot of leaves on the ground, there were some twigs too, there was a bush over there, and there was a deer, I think, over there, but it was kind of far away, so it was hard for me to see, and then I got shot by a hunter, and that was the end of the story.
There's so many times where I actually look at I look back when I would be in these Scrum meetings, because Agile's so important. So if you're a developer out there, I think Agile's stupid. And if you want to comment, tell me if you like or dislike Agile in the comments. I've actually heard of non-programming teams using Agile, and I think that's stupid.
Yeah, my team was forced to do that at one point.
It's the
They
dumbest
even had
shit
us
ever.
using software development management tools to manage our processes and tasks because they thought that made more sense. And it would give them greater visibility. And, I mean, you guys are basically... Isn't every team basically like a dev team? No. Just the secret is
Stupid.
no.
Stupid. It's stupid. It's just dumb.
That's just a bunch of Jira licenses you didn't need to buy.
Yeah. Just dumb. It's just dumb. Like, it's just dumb. Where was I going before I got sidetracked
I'm
on
sorry.
that?
You were talking about Agile.
No, I just think, yeah, it's like you understand, and I think every business is the same. You understand if you're successful if your customers come back. And the word customer can be internal or external, so don't get it twisted. If your external customers are spending money with you, you're probably winning. If the things that you're doing address their problems or their pain points, you're probably winning. Internal customers, those could be employees and or they could be other departments. If they're okay with, asking for your help, you're probably winning.
Unless you don't want them
Agile's
asking for
stupid.
your help. In which
Yeah.
case you're losing big time.
You're losing. You're just a...
And if that's the case, what you need to do is set up an open hours portion of the day on Fridays in a large room where you can drink some beers and invite everybody to come in and tell you what it is that they need help with so you can tell them how stupid they are for asking for that help. Just kidding. Sorry, that's a little inside joke for
area.
area.
I and again, I'm not a guru when it comes to business, and Chris will say, well, you think you are. Well, I'm not.
No, I've said that you're our resident self-proclaimed business expert. Not a guru, but expert.
There, oh, yeah. There we go. That's the one that gets my blood boiling when you say it. There we go. I'm like, what is that? Are you taking a jab at me? I just find that, well, actually, too, let me actually explain that. Things I've done throughout my years, I've learned things from other jobs. And I've transferred most of those skills, if not a lot of them, from the very, very beginning of my first job. And they work. So if they work, why not continue to do them? Yep. So you can come up with a different way to call culture. It's just treat your employees fairly, right? You can I don't want to demonize social media. I understand it, fundamentally. I just don't understand how we're using it. And I think that it's now become a way to amplify bad behaviors. I'm not saying habits. I'm saying bad behaviors in our society. I think self-help is good to an extent that you can manage it and understand that at some point you actually have to do the work. Because there's only so many books you can read. There's only so many seminars you can go to. Those seminars aren't helping you to be a better person. The books aren't helping you to be a better person. It's what you do, what you say, how you respond to things. And that's what kind of concerns me. So it's a great video. We're going to link to it. Please check it out. I do think that the two things are married together. When I look at YouTube, I have to tell YouTube, stop showing me this stuff. I don't want anybody to tell me how to make $100,000 by starting a blog, because that's not true. That's not real. You can do it, but it's not in these 6 easy steps. That's freaking stupid.
No, so I think another great example, earlier this year, right at the beginning of the year, I got an ad for how to get to 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Basically just, that's it. Get to 1,000 YouTube subscribers. And it was this course that you signed up for. It was free, but the whole point was they were selling you everything else that they offered, right? It was this course is a great start, but it's not going to get you where you need to go unless you buy these white papers and ebooks, and if you sign up for our, $159 a month, exclusive club that gets you access to all these things. And I sat there and watched a couple of the videos, and I think I was out of town like when the actual course was going on, and I went back and watched a couple of them, and I was just like, this is garbage. Like, this is stuff we're already doing, or things that we're not interested in doing. Like, we're not going through YouTube and sitting there going, what's everybody talking about today? You know, like, the new stuff that we find, it's not just the things that are trending on YouTube or are trending on Twitter. Like, these are stories that we actually find interesting or funny or stupid, like, that we want to call out for whatever reason. You know, the movies. This is movies that we would actually watch, that we actually watch on our own, not just because we have to do a review about it. Like, there are...
I'm not watching The Notebook or La La Land or whatever the hell that shit was.
You just don't like Ryan Gosling, so...
It's not that. I would never watch it.
Did you ever watch Driver?
But I did
he was pretty good in that.
I did watch...
not Baby Driver. Baby Driver was also good. Oh, Drive.
Yeah,
Drive. It wasn't Driver. It was just Drive.
I didn't watch Drive.
That was pretty good.
But I did watch it. I did watch In the Heights, where critics shit all over that movie, but I thought it was a great movie. Yeah. And I don't typically like musicals. So yeah, we're not going to sit there and we're not going to clout chase just to, because I'm just not going to do it. Like, social media, I don't do it. Chris and I were talking about it over the weekend or the other day. I'm like, dude, I don't think I think the way social media thinks.
You're not
like,
wired to interact with people the way that people interact on social media. Like, I think your brain just doesn't function in that format. I struggle with it sometimes too. Like, I will find myself, I've told you this before, like, I'll find myself like writing comments and like, doing the angry, and then I'm like, this person, you are not changing this person's mind. Like, don't waste your time.
That's where they are.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, that's where they are. There's no point in engaging with this person. There are times where I see the opening, right? Where it's like, all right, we're not that far apart here. Maybe it's a matter of semantics. Maybe it's we just see things a little bit differently, and that's okay. Like, that's the other thing that the approach that I've taken with more of my, like, especially the Chris and Andre show social media presence on Twitter, is like, here's what I think, right? Based on the information that I have, if I'm missing something, like, let me know. Maybe there's an article I didn't read. Maybe I forgot something that happened, and people be like, oh, this. And I'll be like, all right, yeah, okay, cool, thank you. Like, I appreciate that. Like, it's not that hard. We were talking about it earlier, right? And like the secrets to being happy in your marriage, like, just say yes, or learning to say you're sorry. Like, that's a skill that doesn't exist on the internet for the most part. People are never willing to come back and say, hey, I'm sorry, I was wrong. It's not that hard. Right.
I just and I'm trying to I'm not trying to get the impression I hate social media. I understand that I see the value that it could provide, but I also see that it's the bullhorn of stupid, right? Not stupid to say that you're not intelligent, but it's like the easy path.
Well, it's the reinforcement of bad behaviors, like you were talking about earlier.
Right, and I think that's what, like, in a society that's got, like, probably teetering on the edge of like one extreme or the other, I don't think that's a good thing. Like, I don't think we have the social capacity to manage that very well.
I agree.
That kind of creeps me out.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where that it's become a place where the extremists can flock to and feel validated or vindicated because of the engagement that they get one way or the other. It doesn't matter if people are agreeing with them or disagreeing, because they've already made up their minds, right? If I post something,
it'll never be perfectly balanced, as you've proven.
And it was for a little while, but then it kind of fell off a little bit.
But even if you look at some of the replies, so, like, can you give some context behind what it is?
Yeah. Okay. So, Sports Center posted this thing about the Charlotte Hornets, saying that they had a 500 record. They were 500
across everything.
Like 500 overall, 500 against the East, 500 against the West. 500 against something on the road, 500 at home. Like, all 5 ways that you could essentially be 500 in the NBA, they were a perfect 500. And so my comment was, in other words, they're not that good. And somebody else commented, like, or not that bad. And for the longest time, people understood the assignment, as Cardi B likes to say, and were liking both of them equally to basically, and someone screenshotted and like circled like, perfect balance. And I, of course, came back with my pop culture meme from Thanos with the knife blade and stuff, which also got some love. But yeah, it's just, I mean, like I liked the guy's post when he said, or not that good or not that bad, because it's true. Like, I mean, granted, if you're 500 in the NBA, you're probably
or in baseball. Even if you're 500 in baseball, you're going to the freaking playoffs.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, the playoffs have been expanded so much now that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's true.
Apparently, in college, you have to be really good, but once you get to the pros, you just have to be mediocre, and then you can go to the playoffs. Like, that's all that matters.
But not to take away from what you're saying.
No. But it's just one of those things where you get a lot of engagement. You get a lot of people that are like chiming in and all that, and yeah, like it's cool to see a lot of people engaging with something that you posted, but at no point am I like, man, I am awesome because I post, like, it was a stupid 5-word post. Like, it doesn't matter.
It's not a conversation.
No, it's not a conversation. It was just, it's a joke it is.
I am still upset because nobody has given, what's his name?
Stephen Miller crap about being on T-Mobile.
T-Mobile.
I'll throw that out there at some point. Like,
that's where my brain went there, and everybody's like, his parents playing. I'm like, he's on T-Mobile.
So the other thing that I think Twitter, in particular, more than like a lot of the other, in Instagram maybe a little bit, and TikTok I think is what has really picked up on this though. It makes everybody think that they're a comedian, right?
That's fair.
Like, everybody's out there trying to make the joke, trying to get one over, and they treat it like it's a roast. It's not like making good, high-quality jokes. It's like, how can I trash this person and get a laugh out of somebody else, right? And it's just one of the, like, that's one of those things, the TikTok videos and stuff that I see, it's a lot. I mean, and I have those moments, too, where I'm like, I could make this video, and it'd be kind of funny, probably. And yeah, like, I do this stuff on Twitter too, but it's mostly because I'm trying to get engagement for our show. I'm trying to get like people to see us a little bit,
Yeah, but here's where it goes back to what you said before about the course, right? So, a little bit more context. We work at a digital media company. I'm a developer. He's a marketer. The things that people are selling you on like websites or YouTube channels, whatever, like those are all like day one things for people that worked in the media industry. So, or that have the technical capability to create them. So it's not interesting to me, right?
And I think you and I understand the inner workings behind the scenes a little bit more than the average person that's on there. Like, we understand. And not that we worked at Twitter or Facebook or any of those like major social media networks, but we understand the idea behind algorithms, the idea behind machine learning driving, suggesting things to you, and that it is an imperfect game at best. But
let's just reiterate. I wrote an imperfect algorithm to tell like my team what to put in emails.
Yes.
And it was pretty successful. It was. And it was super imperfect.
But it still like required some level of human intervention, right? If you just automatically took the top 10 things that came out from that query or that algorithm, then sometimes you were putting stuff in there that you didn't really want to be sharing with the entire audience. Again, because there were times where people on our site would write stuff that was heinous, like horrible things that got a lot of attention. Because it was a lot of people coming in and being like, this is wrong, like, you can't be saying this stuff. And that's the thing that I think social media fails at a lot, is it amplifies the wrong voices sometimes. Not all the time, but more often than it should. So this is one of the things that I learned early on after
what you're saying is it's not objective. It's like, it's not subjective. It's very binary, what you're saying. Like, you can't you either amplify the wrong voices too much, or you amplify the right voices all the time. And I think that where people miss the mark when it comes to, and it's not just about social media at surface, but it's about what they're trying to market to you. And the pivot to everything is a product, yourself included.
Eyeballs.
Is dangerous. Yeah, it's dangerous. It's dangerous.
It is. And I think the thing that they struggle with is like they've tried doing things like sentiment analysis, right, to determine. But when somebody posts something and you get, I mean, I see this on Twitter all the time now, where I'll see, was it like, I don't even remember who it was, some stupid representative posted something stupid, and 90% of the responses that I saw were people saying like, you're an idiot, like this is dumb, but it gets rocketed to the top of the trending because everybody's commenting on it. So
Right.
what does it ultimately also do? It elevates that voice to other people who may not read the comments. They just see, oh, this is trending, and they read it and they're like, oh, is that what a lot of people feel right now because it's trending? Like,
oh, you're right. A lot of people don't read the comments.
and good on you to some degree, because the
that's
comments are a
that's
dangerous
actually-
place to end up, but
I actually probably overlooked that. A lot of people may not look to see, like I'll see something and I'll say, why does this have 70 comments? And I'll actually read it. And I'll actually read through the comments before, well, sometimes I comment, but most times I don't. Most people don't do that.
Yeah.
That's actually a pretty good point. My brain is not wired to work on social media. like
it's hard work. I mean, I'm
literally-
not like trying to toot my own horn here, but it is like it's a tricky medium to navigate, because especially when you're trying to, be a bit of a public presence like we are for the show, right? I'm not out here trying to like overly alienate people,
But to be fair, we're not trying to like spout one opinion over the other. To like just for clarification.
absolutely. Like, I think if anything, like one of the things that I really appreciate about our show, or just us in general, is that we look at things from both sides, even when we're both on the same side, right? Like, we might both be standing on this, but we can look at it and say, like, is there value in that? Is there something that we're missing? Like,
the don't say gay bill, like legit, that is something where people are going to miss the mark on, and people are having the wrong damn conversation about this bill on purpose.
Yes, and that's more of that manufactured outrage, right? Which, again, it's because outrage drives attention. It drives engagement. You get 1,000 comments about how horrible this is, but at the same time, you're also elevating that bit of content for some other people who might not have seen it otherwise. People want to make fun of the former Cheeto and Chief for, like, I mean, I'm doing it right now, honestly. Like, I'm making fun of him for his orange skin, or for being overweight, or because his hair is crazy, or because he wears the stupid long ties, or because he looks horrible when he plays golf in all white. Like, there are a million other reasons that we should not like Donald Trump, and yet we get sucked into these like surface level, like observations and criticisms that at the same time, like I'm one of those people who's like, well, tell my kid, like, we shouldn't judge others by how they look, like we need to treat people by the character of their,
Jesus
sorry,
Christ.
I almost did that. I almost did. I wasn't even.
Yeah, one of those right-wing racist, low-key MFs trying to use MLK's words against everybody else. I hate
that. Was
that.
unintentional. I'm also not a right-wing MFer. Just not that you need to know that, but that's for everybody else, just to clear that up.
but it's pathetic. I think that so I think I shared that because I see that actually I tell my kids all the time, the internet's not new, number one. So I was using the internet on like before CompuServe. I was using BBS and stuff like that. So I'm like really an old school, not as old as some people I know, old school like computer nerd.
You're old AF.
But secondly, yeah, it's like you guys think that the internet is this new thing. It's just another channel of entertainment and or media. And now we're like, when I see the self-help thing, that was something I started to push against in my corporate days. I'm like, I'm not reading that book. I would just tell people I'm not going to read the book. I'm just not. I don't need to read any more books. And it's like this book is saying the same thing just by a different author. So we're moving the same ills that we had and I think the late 90s or mid 90s to late 90s, or actually into 2000, was a terrible time for society, just in how business was operating.
And the internet became like a really popular thing and like accessible to more people at a base level at the same time. Like, it was really probably not the greatest coincidences.
You're actually, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
And it was like, there was that whole, like, I mean, my parents didn't know what to do with the internet when we got it, you know? Like, I mean, I was 10, 11 years old, and I basically had unfettered access to a computer that had internet. Like, not the greatest idea. No offense, Mom and Dad, because I know you guys didn't know, but it's just like, there's a lot of weird shit out there on the internet that you can find. You want to know why Chris turned out the way he did? Internet. No, that's not fair. It's really The Simpsons' fault.
Yeah, but you're not, I mean, well, you're not wrong in either account. But,
and my weirdo college friends.
I just think that we're moving and it's funny to me that Gen Z, that group, and I don't like the whole generational thing, but Gen Z, that supposed demographic, is latching on to the 90s, and they're also taking on some of the 90s like ill-fated, passions, such as self-help,
grunge music,
grunge music. The romanticizing of mental illness. Yeah. I think that's something that we're not being careful of. The romanticizing of work all day and you'll get the reward.
And that's even like late 80s. You know, I mean, like the 80s was really big on, like work yourself to death now so that you can enjoy life later, kind of thing.
But we pulled out of that for a little bit. Like we literally pulled after divorce rates spiked up. And now we're just kind of like repackage that into side hustles.
But that's the thing that was one of the things that honestly made my life so much better, was when I got out of that belief that like, if I do everything possible for my job that it asked me to do right now, I will reap the rewards later. Like delaying gratification. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that we've talked about this story before. I'll bring it up because it's one of my favorites. But I had a vacation planned for the same weekend that E-Area was launching a brand new version of their website. I was coming down here to the beach to spend it with my family. My cousins were coming in from out of town. I hadn't seen them in a while. I was very excited. I was bringing my whole family with me. And I checked with my boss and was like, yo, I put in for this time. And he was like, well, then you should be good. And I went to leave. Andre was like week 1 on the job. And the CEO is like, where the do you think you're going? And I'm like, I'm going to the beach. And he was like, we're launching a new website tomorrow. And I'm like, and I'll be online. And so, yeah, like that was the moment for me, like personally, where I realized, man, I did the right thing. Like, if I'd have stayed behind, my wife would have been pissed. My family would have been upset that I had kind of had to be, I mean, like mad at me, but they would have been like, oh, that really sucks that you couldn't come. I would have missed out on that opportunity to see my daughter at like, I don't know, less than a year old interact with her cousin who is also less than a year old for the first time. Like, there's amazing, adorable pictures, and like they have this incredibly cute, close bond now because every 4th of July we get together. And that was the start of all that. And I could have blown that simply because my boss wanted me to stay behind to make sure, not because I hadn't done my job, because he had no way of verifying that, but because he was worried something might go wrong and then I wouldn't be available.
Well, to be fair, you had everything secure with my experience.
Yeah, that's true. But they have internet down at the beach. Granted, it took a while for the website to get to me because that's how the internet works.
In all honesty, though, I'm glad that you learned that lesson younger than older, because it took me a long time in my life to realize that. That's when I started to decide that, hey, I need to, divorce myself from this company. I just wasn't happy. Yeah. And I don't. I go back to this like super simple conclusion on the internet. Yeah, the internet is a great invention of society on the consumer side, but the number one websites that we use are still porn sites. So it's great that we can do all these things, but the most trafficked, trafficked sites. Yeah, I was like, I'm getting old. The most trafficked sites are. I was like, doing my George Bush impression. The most trafficked sites are still porn sites. So I'm still not convinced. So I don't know. I'm not naive, but I want people to try to ask more questions. And I think that's where people just get intellectually lazy about the whole process.
I agree. And that's where I think you're onto something there when it comes to social media. Like, people are less interested in asking questions on social media and more interested in stating their opinions. And then once it's stated, they feel like they have to defend that position until it's all over, right? Like, I will defend my stupid opinion to the death because it was the opinion I wrote once. Like, who cares, man? Like, I've said so many stupid things that I don't even agree with anymore. On this podcast, probably. And we've only been doing it for like 2 years.
Yeah. I actually literally was just hearing somebody, like, there's a lot of people in the entertainment industry. I listen to The Breakfast Club and a lot of other, like, entertainment-focused things. And I'll tell you right now, the black culture is not about this cancel culture. I think cancel culture has... It missed an exit. The exit it should have been was like a modern way to protest. Now it's turned to you will be forgotten. Well, that's never going to happen.
Yeah, the idea that we're somehow going to erase you from like all human memory, right? I mean, the internet. They always say what happens on the internet lasts forever.
It's not Vegas.
No, it's.
Damn clowns.
But no, you're absolutely right. Like, there's that and it's ridiculous because now what cancel culture has really created is almost like cancel culture martyrs, right?
It's not even a culture.
No, but you know
it's a word.
The idea of canceling people, what it does is it actually boosts their profile more than if we just didn't pay attention to them. Like, all of the calling out and all of this, like, what it actually does is elevate this person.
You're asking for permission. You're asking for permission to ignore this person forever.
Or you're asking everyone else to join you in your opinion of this person.
Yes.
Right? Validate that I think this person shouldn't be famous, right? That's what it really boils down to more often than not. It's like, this person shouldn't be famous because I don't agree with their opinion. And on no matter which side you sit on, that's a stupid way to look at it.
You know what's funny about that? I'll give you two examples. I think the comedy community is shitting all over cancel culture because they blatantly challenge. They're like, oh, I'm gonna get canceled for this, but I'm gonna say it anyway, and nothing happens. Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, like, I could probably go down a list of comedians where, like, I think they laugh in the face of cancel culture. And then secondly, I just think that damn it, I forgot I'm getting old.
Turn it into me.
Like, this is the day that God. Oh, here it is. Cancel culture is going to become a ethnic battle line.
Interesting. Why do you think that?
I think it's because like the people that are supposedly being canceled, or companies that are quote unquote canceling things, or the people that are talking about canceling so much are predominantly conservative, and I don't know what they're conserving people. They are trying to associate quote unquote cancel culture with certain groups and demographics of people. Not so much the issue anymore, but groups of people.
Yeah, the left tries to cancel everything, right? That's
not even the left.
But I'm saying that that's the verbiage coming out of, like, the ultra conservatives and stuff like that. It's like
Yeah, the targets they're picking are predominantly, they're particularly not white. That's the thing. I'm starting to notice that a lot more. Not because I want to, but because it's a damn fact.
Well, and because they're racist. not all conservatives. Just to be clear, I'm not calling all conservatives racist. I'm not calling all Republicans racist. I'm not even calling all members of the GOP racist.
We're gonna stop doing that. If you're racist,
you're racist. You're racist. And if that comment offends you, then you're probably racist too.
I personally don't like cancel culture because I don't think it's a culture. I think it's a permission set. It's like, if I don't want to fuck with Ted Cruz, I don't fuck with Ted Cruz. I don't need your permission for it. I don't need you to sign up for it. There's companies I don't fuck with. I don't give them my money.
Well, it's like the quick hits from last week where we were talking about the senators that shared the tweet of Zelensky, and you were like, "What are you doing? Don't give him any." And I know you weren't like, Chris, you need to cancel them with me, but you're like, no, man, I wasn't even going to say anything because I didn't want to give them my due or my attention. And I hope everybody enjoyed the fact that I blurred out Marco Rubio's face and put a question mark over it after we'd already shown his face, because that's the style of humor that I have. But yeah, it's.
But you see my point, though, right? You're asking for permission. You want people to support you and support you in your decision to not do something. I'm like, I don't need your fucking permission to do it. It's like Kanye West.
I thought we weren't going to talk about him anymore. Last week you said, can we talk about Kanye West and then stop? And here he is again, talking about Kanye West. No, it's fine. You can talk about Kanye West. I don't care.
So people are legit trying to go after his bag. They're like, yo, they're calling Gap. They're calling, I think the Adidas deal with the Yeezys. They should stop making them shoes because they're ugly as shit anyway.
Just stop listening to his music. Like, don't buy the stupid streaming device for $200 to listen to Donda.
Don't buy
it's not that big a deal. Donda 2, excuse me.
Yeah, it's not that important, yo. And it's like, I don't want to come up. It's like, look, I don't have a remedy for quote-unquote cancel culture. But I can tell you this. You can't convince me to fuck with a guy if I don't want to fuck with a guy.
Phrasing?
And that's what
phrasing.
That's what that's what cancel culture is kind of like. I want to get all my friends to not like you. I tell people all the time, I just don't like so and so.
And that's right, because all it really boils down to is it's your opinion. And you don't have to validate your opinion. Your opinion can just be your opinion. And if it's a stupid ass opinion, then people are probably going to tell you it's a stupid ass opinion. It doesn't matter. Even if everybody tells you your stupid ass opinion because you didn't like that movie or whatever, you don't like this actor, you don't think he should be in these movies. All right, whatever. That's my opinion. Why do I need anybody else to agree with me?
Yeah, I don't need people to sign off on what I say or what I don't say. Unless I feel like I'm fundamentally wrong or there's something inside me that's like, yo, you're off on that. Then I'm like, I don't care. I don't like Tyler Perry's movies. I like Tyler Perry as a business and what he does for people in Georgia, what he's done for the community there. I don't like his movies, and I'll tell him I'm not going to watch Madea do shit. I don't fuck with that.
That one scene from Black AF, that changed my whole perspective on Tyler Perry.
Yes, I like Tyler Perry.
Yeah, no, I know, but I was in the same. I was kind of like. Tyler Perry, and not that I was like, hey everybody, let's not watch Tyler Perry movies because who the fuck's gonna listen to me about Tyler Perry movies? But I watched that and I was like, oh yeah, man, who fucking cares? He doesn't care.
Yeah.
If people enjoy his movies, let them enjoy his movies. If you don't enjoy his movies, don't go watch his movies. But you don't have to convince people to not go watch his movies. Just like those people don't have to convince you to go watch his movies. It's not.
And I think that's a slippery slope that we're on. It's not about that it's not even picking sides anymore. It's like you're trying to convince people to
It's
believe
the homogenization of opinion. That's what it really boils down. We're trying to make everybody have the same opinion so that we eliminate conflict and we can all just agree everything is the same. We all feel the same way. All right, do you ever The Giver. Do you ever I know. Do you ever read the book The Giver? No, maybe it's not The Giver.
What's it about?
Let me make sure that I know what I'm talking about.
See, ladies and gentlemen, now he's bringing up books.
No, but it was also a movie. But I read a book before I saw the movie. So it basically
that doesn't. I don't read fiction books. Okay. That's just not my thing.
I forgot. Yeah, that's not what I'm looking for. I just need like a quick synopsis so I can explain to people.
Ladies and gentlemen, while he's looking for the book, if you haven't watched Vikings, please watch Vikings. Please catch up.
All right. So there's a boy who lives in a seemingly idyllic world of conformity and contentment, where everybody does the same stuff, everybody dresses the same, they all live in the same style houses, they all there is no disagreement. Essentially, they have eliminated disagreement in this, and so everything is the same, right? People are slightly different, obviously, because they're still people. But yeah, essentially it becomes boring as hell. And there's this character who basically passes on the past knowledge of each generation to a new giver. People are assigned their jobs in this. You don't get to choose what you become. You're assigned a job going forward in the future. Jeff Bridges was in the movie, so I watched it. It was fairly bad. The movie was not good. The book is really entertaining. It's not a very long book. But it's just it's basically, it sounds a lot like what some people, I'm not saying everybody.
It sounds like Trump's America.
But not even Trump's America, because I think there are people on both sides who want to create this conformity.
You're right. I don't disagree. I think that the extreme on the left and the extreme on the right are fucking annoying.
And all of those of us in the middle somewhere, right? I'm not saying we're all smack dab in the middle.
We're quiet as
well, and not all of us. I mean, we're pretty fucking loud, but you and me.
No, I think a mass.
But where are the rest of you? Get on our bandwagon and join us in our opinions that everything sucks except for the things that we like, and everything is great except for the stuff that we don't. No, I know that's not what we're saying.
I would never. I don't want to. I don't. I want to make sure people. I'm like, yeah, that guy really said. I did not say that.